Magaña, and this is Steve Wolf with Savvy Woman Wealth Management. Savvy Woman Wealth Management is dedicated to financial education for women. We want women to feel comfortable about investing in stocks, bonds, and financial planning and any financial related topic.
So today we decided to talk a little bit about divorce, a topic unfortunately that hits many women hard. And we actually asked 3 of our clients to come on in and talk a little bit about their experience.
Perhaps you can start off by sharing with us how long you were married and how long you've been divorced.
I was married 31 years. It took me quite by surprise. I never thought I'd be divorced. I've been separated since 2012 and divorced since 2014, so 30 years.
Okay.
And I was married almost 24 years and have been divorced for 4 years. Same thing. Never thought that would happen.
I was married for 13 years and have now been divorced since 1999, so 18 years.
It's been a while.
It has.
It's been a while.
So what concerns did you have when you were first going through divorce?
Me, I was happy. I shouldn't say it like that. I was happy to financially. I'm assuming you want to talk about finances. So in general, we didn't have the same priorities for spending, so I was anxious to be in control of my own finances. That was.
What do you mean that you didn't have the same goals or?
Yeah, I think that's true. We got married at a young age, and we had different priorities on where we wanted to spend our money, and I didn't feel like I always had control in the decision making.
Chris, how about you?
I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. First of all, I was taken by surprise. I thought my marriage was going to go on forever. The first thing I was terrified was being alone. And then from a financial standpoint, I had not done anything at all through our entire marriage. I had let my husband have all, I had decisions, I helped with all the decision making, but I didn't know how to manage everything. I'd left it to someone else, which really isn't kind of my nature, but I'd left it to someone else.
How about now? Do you feel a little bit more in control?
Oh God, yes.
Sherry, how about you? What kind of went through your mind
Oh
when
gosh.
this was happening?
A combination of all of those, of course. Initially just that new normal of having that identity of being married for so long. It's psychologically, it's devastating. But I think for the same reason, I always say, we just being very different and things that you wanted kind of to have going forward and financially and decisions and kind of not feeling like you had much of a voice sometimes, and so that it was empowering for me coming out of that. And I was in a position where thankfully it was amicable in that sense. I wasn't blindsided. We really kind of grew apart, and to this day I wish my ex-husband the best. So it's one of those situations which made it. We went through mediation, and it wasn't a struggle in that way as far as a battle over finances. Mm-hmm. And I came out with something that I could build on, and I'm thankful for that very much. And I think that my heart really goes out to women who not only, as you say, are blindsided, but then and haven't had that ability to come out with something to start with and build upon. That's really my reason for wanting to reach out and share information if it can be beneficial to others.
It's interesting what you were saying about being amicable, because mine is the same thing. My ex-husband and I are still very good friends, even though I had every right to not be his friend. And I went through this period where I didn't get angry. I had every right to be angry, but I didn't get angry. So I decided to just despair. And finally, with the help of a lot of counseling, I finally came to that point where I allowed myself to get mad And all of a sudden it was like the floodgates open. I was stronger, I was happier. All I had to do was get mad and just get mad for a couple of days, and then I was fine. And my daughter keeps telling me, she goes, Mom, you're stronger than I've ever seen you. And she's 27 years old. She goes, I've watched you all my life, and you're stronger than ever.
And did you prepare in any way, knowing that it was coming?
Yes, that was part of the process, was actually the realization that, and it was actually some of the financial aspects were what brought it to a kind of a finishing point too, was the totally different philosophy and in some ways.
Did you feel that you knew where all the financial assets were, and did you feel like you...
Yes, in that there were decisions that I didn't want to go along with regarding purchasing real estate and things that to this day we still deal with, that I felt like I didn't have a say. That's where I really didn't feel like I had a voice. It was like, listen to me, I'm the expert in that, and you don't really, I'm the one making most of the money, so you don't really get a chance to say no. And that really bothered me a lot, that I didn't feel like I was listened to on some pretty big financial decisions. But on everything else, I mean, I knew where our cash was, I knew what our investments were. I wasn't kept in the dark about that.
Renee, were you blindsided, or was it your choice? Or?
It was more my choice, yeah. And mostly, I mean, we had kids and we were young, and I think we just didn't realize that we weren't really made for each other. We were good friends. It was amicable. You know, we still see each other to this day. We have 3 children, so, you know, we'll always be the parents of the same children, and none of them have had weddings yet, so we'll see how it goes with grandkids and all that. But, and since we were young, we didn't accumulate a lot of assets, so there wasn't a lot of, you know, worrying about who gets what. It was kind of who's paying what.
Obviously, this was a major disruption in your family, and I'd like to know, how did it affect your children, and then how did you handle that situation?
Well, I can tell you when our one daughter went to college, for whatever reason, all the information was going to his address, and he would just call me or, you know, send an email and say, okay, we need $700, and the next week we need $1,500, and that was kind of blindsiding, whereas like, no, I want a certain amount a month, I don't want to know, you know, I need to, you know, come up with this cash all of a sudden, and so eventually I made an arrangement with my daughter directly that, you know, I'm going to give you X amount per month, and you're going to have to budget your own money, and whatever your dad gives you, he gives you. And so when the other ones went to college, we kind of followed that pattern.
My daughter was actually just graduated from college when we divorced, when we separated. And I actually was supposed to go back and see her. And I found out, well, I'll be point blank honest, I found out on my birthday in February that my husband was cheating on me. And I had to go back, and I was going to go back and see her in March, and I said, you have to tell her. I am not going to tell her, because this is not my choice, this is not what I want. You're going to have to tell her, and you're going to have to tell her before I go, because she's going to know. She has actually been my rock. And she is to this day. She has been my rock. And we've also gone through the fact that her dad got remarried 2 weeks before her wedding. So we've gone through the wedding with the new wife there, which is really interesting. Let me tell you, it's fun.
I just had my ex and his wife and 2 new kids for Thanksgiving this year. So
there you go.
Yeah, we're amicable.
But no, she goes, you know, I kind of understood. She was surprised, but she said, no, Mom, you're going to come out of this. It's okay. And she really is.
How did she handle it? Was she okay?
I think she was not okay initially. I think she was so wrapped up in what she was doing. She was an investment banker at the time, that she didn't have time to process it. And finally, one time when we got together and she was kind of crying, and I said, you need to find someone that helps you process this, because obviously I had to, and you need to find a way that you can deal with this, because I want her dad to be her dad.
So you guys use counseling,
We did.
okay?
We did.
Sherry?
Same thing. My boys were older, out of high school and into college, and so and I don't think it was a real shock to them. But the one thing that really helped me, although I would counsel other women if they can to take advantage of it before the process. I went through divorce care at my church, and that was extremely helpful. It is Christian based, but anyone can come, and it is so good with working through all the different emotions and stages of grief, because it is like a death, and so you get validation of the things you're feeling, and with that, so that's a form of, in a way, it's a form of counseling as well. But I did also go to some counseling, and my younger son did go through some as well, and I think that's beneficial.
Did they handle it okay? Were they upset?
Yeah, because we really, we had, I think they just knew. I mean, it wasn't a surprise. So it really, and we really had, the boys are not super close, and so they were off doing their, they're working, they're in school or whatever. They weren't really around, and it wasn't like it was fighting at home or anything like that. They just knew there was a distance, a real separation of the family units.
I would recommend counseling for anyone. I don't think you can do it by
Would you
yourself.
guys too?
I would too.
I went to counseling before, like trying to reconcile the marriage before we actually split up. But then once we split up, there was no time for counseling. My kids were young, and sports and school and working, and
How old were your kids when you got?
we split up and we were separated for several years, and then the actual divorce was final in '99, and they were 10, 14, and 22.
And how did they handle it?
The youngest one doesn't remember a nuclear family at all. To this day, she always feels like she had two homes. She went back and forth so much that she just doesn't even know what it's like. And then, like I said, we had his family over for Thanksgiving this year, and she's like, this is so weird. This is so weird. And it's her mom and dad, but it still was very strange for her. The middle daughter, it was mad that she didn't know first. Why didn't I know about this? She was 7 at the time when we first told her we were, going to live separately. And the oldest daughter, she was a teenager, and she took his side more than mine, which was surprising to me. That I thought she would be more compassionate and empathize with me, but somehow she felt like he was in the right.
So it sounds like you had a lifestyle change. Obviously, you went from being joint to now on your own,
Right.
trying to manage all of it. Did you have any other support or help?
No, fortunately, I had a good job. I was a court reporter, and I did that right out of high school, and I was financially taking care of myself and felt independent, and I knew that I was making enough money that I could actually get divorced. I think if I didn't have that career, I would have stayed in the marriage a lot longer, because I would not have felt as independent. But I could see, dollars and what was coming in and what was going out, and I felt like I could be supportive of myself.